Oh, righto. Okay, so so OBS was conking out on me, and it doesn't let me do the selfie cam and all this. I tell you what are we talking about today, guys? I've got a question for you. Let's just check if that's actually recording, because I don't want to do this for nothing. Oh yeah, it's recording. How good is that? So, peeps, here's the question: British Empire. Do you think the British Empire was built on free trade, which encourages great creativity and expression in produce and products and all sorts of enterprise? Do you think that is what established the British and grew the British Empire to owning half the planet? Or was it extreme protection, extreme tariffs? Which one was it, guys? Which one was it? I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think about this very hard and tell me. 4, 3, 2, you're out of time, guys. Look, it was a brutal, enclosed empire. They didn't tolerate too much in the way of any goods coming from anywhere else unless it was raw materials. And this policy it started in the Tudor era and it continued for 400 years. And I'm getting it from 2 interesting books. England in the 17th century by Maurice Ashley, long time ago, and also even longer ago, Tillage, Trade and Invention by George Townsend Warner. It's about industrial history of Britain, and that's a 1912, reprinted in the 50s, I think. So you see, guys, Britain was essentially something that the freest part of it for the whole British Empire for 400 years was that they would have low taxes on, or no taxes on, raw material imports. They wanted raw materials coming through into Britain, and all trade. It was all seen as good if it increased employment in Britain. If trade was reducing employment in Britain, it was seen as evil. It's the opposite philosophy of basically the whole 20th century. Post-World War I, it was the amount of trade is what's good. How big is the amount? And then later on, and I call this almost Marxist, the free trade movement. It's almost Marxist. It's like we need to set a good example so that by freeing up trade, so that they set a good example by freeing up trade. But what inevitably happens is, I think people just put the tariffs on. Now, let's get into this. Let's break it down, people, because we need to break this down. So I have these 2 books, and they have taught me extraordinary things, absolutely extraordinary things. Now, we've discussed raw material products. It was encouraged, and people were given monopolies. If they invented a new manufacturing process, they'd given them a monopoly. Patents are impossible. The purpose of a patent is that something gets to be produced in one country, and you own it. The other countries can't do it. They're locked out of trade anyway. You get to do it. That's your reward for increasing the employment in the country. A patent today is to enrich lawyers. And it's pretty much useless. It's more about speed to market if you want to get a product out there. You have to get it out now, make your money for 3-5 years. And then by then, you've got all this competition coming in from, say, China. And it's kind of the end of the business cycle unless it's a really quality product and people see that. So even patents and monopolies back then were totally different to what they are today. Today, you need a patent for this country, a patent for that country, a patent for that country, and they're going to do it anyway. Has this slowed down innovation? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. Who can say? This author here, George Townsend Warner, he doesn't say, because he's writing in the early 20th century where they start freeing up and liberalising the trade. He doesn't say that all this monopolising, etc., built the British Empire, but he implies it. And it had to be the case. I'll tell you why. It doesn't stop there. It was discouraged. Exports were seen as good, imports were seen as bad unless it was raw materials to produce more exports, to increase the employment in Britain. That's how it worked, right? And this system went from the Tudor period onward and it seems to have built and sprouted the British Empire. Now, the Tudors. Let's get down to it. The Tudors were, so here we go, an exporter was a friend to his country, an importer the enemy, but one or two exceptions were made. Import of raw material was good, we could not produce it at home, and the finished goods could be exported for more than the raw material had cost. So there would be a net gain. Again, though export generally was laudable, yet export of raw material was bad because it might have been made up at home, and so there was loss. Further, export of money to the Eastern trade was not bad because the merchants could sell as much as their Eastern merchandise again to the foreigner for more than they paid for it, and so the money could be replaced. The idea about the balance of trade is later than the Tudors. It belongs to the 17th and even the 18th centuries, but it came logically from Tudor ideas. It is a key to what is called the mercantile system, which governed English policy for so long. In other words, for maybe 400, until about 1900, or maybe the post-Napoleonic times, Britain was governed in such a way that we are using trade to strengthen the country. Something China is incidentally doing today. And in my lifetime, they've gone from extreme poverty, riding bicycles, the object of humour, to something that is monolithic, huge, and unstoppable, and is producing electric cars. So this is currently a part of current politics. Now, I'm not going to even touch politics on this channel. I'm just telling you history, you make up your own minds. But it seems that this protectionism can very easily build up an empire and make a country strong. Now, there's more, because we have implications regarding the goods. What happens if, say, a colony in America, a British colony in America, is producing a certain secondary good from a primary resource such as iron ore? Let's say that they started their own steel industry in America. What's going to happen there? Can that colony then sell that steel to China back in the 1700s? The answer is no. That product, that fork that is being manufactured in, say, Boston or wherever, must be shipped to London and sold to London. And then the people in London will decide where to resell that product inside their own empire or for export. And as we get closer and closer towards the American Revolution, what's happening is this process is increasing. Not only that, people are being driven to America out of Britain, and by a process started in Tudor times in which feudalism broke down. The tenants said, pay us. The Lord said, okay, I'll pay you. You don't owe me work anymore. But because you don't owe me work anymore, the village green is no longer common for your animals, so I'm taking it for my sheep. And maybe I'll take your farm as well. And I'll just put my sheep there, and I don't need to have all these useless eaters on my farm, so get out. And they did this in Ireland in the 19th century, potato famine, turn into sheep grazing. Don't grow potatoes, it's all for sheep. That's part of the reason for the famine. Part of the reason. Another part of the reason could be actually this system that I'm describing, this mercantile system where everything has to go to England first and then England decides where it goes. So Ireland was exporting food while they were starving. India, I believe they were doing something similar, and they also had a few famines in the 19th century as well, but I don't know much about that. So as you see, what's happening as we get towards the American Revolution, people are being driven to America out of UK by the fact that English wool is so expensive in the continent that people are being driven off their feudal tenure, their traditional tenure. They have nothing to do, nowhere to go. 7 years to be a journeyman, to learn a trade. What do? You go to America, you start a farm, and you'd be angry. And then, if you want to export your goods and you're in America, you can only send it to England, to my knowledge. So, wow, no wonder they had a revolution. Forget about the Boston Tea Party and the 2% levy, or look at these are the real reasons for the American Revolution. And this is true imperialism. This is, you must export the goods to us. This is why we have the empire in the first place. And it became increasingly like this until, say, the 20th century. And as soon as they liberalized everything, they basically liberalized away their empire as well. They made a deal with America to get rid of their colonies as help against Hitler. Churchill thought he would betray America when he won the election after the war. He lost the election, and the people who won the election said, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we don't need it anymore. Because when you're on top of the ladder, there's nowhere to go but down the ladder. So Britain went down the ladder, and it's still going down the ladder, and it's basically deindustrialised. So that's what happened there. So what else can we discuss? Let me see now. So this book here, England in the 17th century. Okay, now I remember. The Navigation Acts. So how the Navigation Acts worked they were essentially a system where we want to build up skilled sailors so we can win any naval engagement. So everyone wanting to trade with UK or British Empire had to do so using English ships. That's not all. There had to be English sailors on those English ships. And this is how they broke Holland. Holland had a way of manufacturing wood extremely quickly. They could get it from Poland. England couldn't get it from anywhere. They're old oak trees if they had any. It wasn't very good wood. And Holland could also saw it very quickly with their windmills. They had this excellent sawing technology, right? However, eventually this restrictive trade with their next door neighbour England weakened Holland, ended their golden age, and look what happened. So guys, basically what I'm telling you is this. Look, let me see now. So that's the Navigation Acts. Now the Navigation Acts also caused possibly the revolution in England. The revolution in America. We can't use American sailors. Yeah. So guys, I want you to think about that. That is the historian's view of economics, and I think economists have to be historians. These current economies, they say, lately all my life they've been saying free trade is good, free trade is good. If free trade is good, why is our standard of living going down? And why is the standard of living of tariffing countries going up? Explain that. Your comments below. Cheerio.